So we're going to jump into the next panel, which is all about customer retention and how to get it right. So I'll hand over to the team and they can introduce themselves. And Arby, over to you.
Hi, guys. Yeah, just wanted to test the mic. Hi, guys, and welcome once again to Growth Summit London event. I am very excited to be hosting this afternoon's panel discussion with some of the UK's most inspiring industry leaders who've helped brands like Foodhub, Missguided, and Holland and Barrett, Snow+Rock, Heels, as well as Revoola succeed. So guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be our panelists today, and of course for agreeing to speak on customer retention and how to get it right. So I'm Arby and I am with MoEngage. MoEngage is an insights-led customer engagement platform, and I look after the product marketing function in Europe. So I want to start the panel discussion by letting you guys introduce yourselves. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, your company, your experience, and also maybe throw in an interesting or fun fact about yourself. So Nick, since you're next to me, we'll start off with you.
Okay, thank you, Arby. Thank you everybody for being here. I'm really pleased to be here as well. So my name is Nick. I'm from Italy, and my real name is Nicola. But as you can imagine, having a Nicola here with me, every time I said, hi, my name is Nicola, everybody expected a lady. So I changed into Nick. And why I'm in the UK...
Wait, that's not your fun fact yet, is it?
Well, it depends. But I'm in the UK mainly for a reason, and because I think I'm the only Italian that likes pineapple on pizza. So 6 years ago, I had to relocate and change my name. So now they lost my trail.
Hello, afternoon. I'm Nicola, and I have spent the last 20-ish years of my career in retail, focusing mainly on CRM, retention, loyalty. So as Arby said, that's been at companies like Boots, Holland and Barrett, and most recently Missguided. But 4 years ago, I started to work for myself. So I now work freelance as a CRM and loyalty specialist. So I go into retailers now and try and help them make their strategy happen, because I kind of got to the stage where I was a little bit tired of coming up with strategies and then never either having the resource or the technology or the data to make it happen. So I work with teams to do that. Fun fact. I got all like hot and sweaty about this bit. I don't really have any fun. I'm not very fun, to be honest. But what I will say is that I reached an achievement last week. I got twins to 8 years old. So I am pretty stoked about that, because there were times when I really didn't think I would.
Hi, I'm David Kohn. All these people with 20 years in the retail industry, amateurs. I've got over 30 years in the retail industry, so much so I've taken to describing myself as a veteran retailer, which is not necessarily what anyone wants to be called. I've worked largely unsuccessfully for many retailers, several of whom have gone bust subsequently. I've worked in all sorts of different functions, but for the last 15 years, I've worked primarily in e-commerce, and I've worked for really nice brands like the Snow+Rock group and for Heels. I've got loads of fun facts, but I think the one that I'm going to bring up here is the reason I was invited to this, I think, is because I was so horrible and so difficult to sell into by somebody who's now working at MoEngage. I was such an awful potential client that I think he thought I would be good value on this panel. So I'm here because I'm horrible.
We were a dream client. Hi, I'm Chris. I have not spent a lot of my career in retail. It's been a fairly varied career. I spent the last 20 years running businesses in largely the media sphere, but troubled businesses. That's been in film, publishing, etc. And that spanned everything from business to business businesses direct-to-consumer businesses and technology businesses. And I now am CEO of Revoola, which is a new well-being app, and you may well roll your eyes, there are many of them around, but a very different one that's aimed at the 90% of the market forgotten at the moment. It's mental and physical health, and we've been going about a year, so we're very early in our journey, but this stuff is critical, obviously, to us. And you want a fun fact? I shouldn't say this in a room that looks half my age. My first job was for a company that made celluloid film prints and videotapes. So it's been a long journey from there to a tech startup.
Thank you so much, guys, for sharing insights about yourselves. So speaking of insights, and I want to start our conversation there, really. So we hear this a lot, consumer insights, customer insights. But really, what do we mean by consumer insights, right? And how do they impact or influence customer retention and business growth? Let's probably start with you, Nicola.
That's a good place to start. Okay, so I suppose for me, I'm a marketer through and through, so I don't claim to be a data analyst or anything like that. But the reason that insight has become more and more important to me, certainly over the last sort of 10 to 15 years, is because we've really got to understand our customers better. And, you know, so if we talk about growth, what do we need for growth? We need more people spending more money or using what we do more of the time. And in order to be able to do that, we can't continually chase ourselves to the bottom on price or quality or service. We have to find what we do for our customers, what it is that makes us special. And insight is the key to that for me. Data leads to insight, and insight tells stories. And stories are the things that... Stories are the things that bring that to life and help different areas of your business understand what they can do to make a difference to your customers. So that for me is what insight means and why it's really important to have it.
Thank you. Nick, do you want to?
No, it's not for me an easy question to answer because customer insights for me means a lot of things.
Yep.
So, first of all, I do marketing and branding. And I understand the customer insights for quantitative data, how many open rates, how many engagement. But then what I really want to focus when I look on the customer retention is what is the perception that my customer have of my brand, of my communication. This is what I'm really focused on because customer retention, I think we can explore it better later. And loyalty, for me, comes from one thing, that is branding, and how the brand is perceived. So my customer insight, when they want to do customer retention, is really looking into that. Data are great. We sit on a lot amount of data today. But are we able to read them in the right way to give proper meaning out of this data? This is the biggest challenge for me. And this is the biggest challenge, I think, for my team. And if you have a solution or if any of you have something better to teach me, I'm really open to that because, what we are trying to do is trying our best, do mistakes, but really understand the customer behavior is not so easy. Data doesn't provide us everything. I think actually they are a little bit overestimated, overrated. We need to go back to the basic and understand the psychology of our customers. Data can give us that.
My first job, which was an awful long time ago, was as a management consultant. And I wrote this beautifully crafted report. It was, I was fresh out of university, really, written essay after essay. And I wrote this report and I handed it to my manager. And it came back about 3 hours later, red ink everywhere. And he just said, "So what?" in about 50 different places. And he put on the end of it in capital letters says, "Make sure this passes the so what test. It doesn't right now." And that is my view of a lot of customer insight. It's one of the most unfocused areas in most organizations is people think they're getting insight, but they're not getting actionable insight. I'll try and identify 3 areas where I think insight is valuable and where, when you're looking for insight, these are the things you should be thinking of. The first thing is prioritization. It's very interesting what Louisa said, ignoring the shiny things and focusing on the big things. Use insight to help you prioritize. For example, if you've got a website, see where the people actually are. See where they're dropping out. Try and understand why they're dropping out. Don't focus on the little things. There are so many things that your boss or your peers or even yourself will want to focus on. The first thing to use insights for is prioritize on the things that are important. The second thing I'd say about insights, slightly different point of view here, and particularly when it relates to customer retention, is there's a massive focus on CRM and imagining that you know each individual customer. My view is that's massively overestimated, but what's underestimated is developing insight into where the customer is in their journey right now. Yeah, the fact that once upon a time I bought a really expensive sofa from Heels, yeah, it's irrelevant right now. If I've gone online and I've searched for dining table, that's extremely relevant. And if I've gone onto the website, if I've gone into the store and I've engaged in an interaction, that's incredibly relevant. So I'd say maybe underestimate CRM a little bit and this sort of understand the customer, but overestimate understanding where the customer is in their journey. And the final thing I'd say, which accords with what Nick said, is the best way to get insight is to do stuff, yeah? If you're sure about something, or if you're relatively certain, my advice is get on and do it and see what happens. If you're unsure, still do something, yeah? Because by doing nothing, by trying to dot the I's and cross the T's, you will waste time and you'll learn an awful lot more. You'll get an awful lot more insight if you do something and see what happens than if you do nothing.
I agree with that completely. I think a lot of companies in the traditional retail spaces panic. They see new startups going and go, oh my God, we've got no idea. Get some systems in, bring some analysts in. Brilliant, we know our customer. And yeah, it never becomes actionable. It's not linked to any business purpose or strategy. At Revoola, we're tiny. We've been going a few months. We're a handful of people. But we're aiming at a market that has never been pitched at before, which is the 85% of people that don't use, never want to use a health and fitness and a wellness and mental health app. So we don't know our customers at all. So we have to find out a little bit about them. And retention for us is 2 things. We can't retain them if they don't use the product. Their employer has bought this for them. We have to then reintroduce ourselves to their employees, our users. So retention starts with engagement. Why are we different? Why would you use our product? And then it's learning about how they use our product. And in the tech business, particularly health and fitness, there are an awful lot of founders' products. They're for their founders and their mates who like running or cycling. And they've got customer engagement departments who are ignored and they're shouted down in the office by the highest paid person in the room, whose company it is. So we're not like that. Our product is built around the consumer, and every development and enhancement will come from what we learn from those customers. But you have to keep it simple.
Amazing, thank you. Now let's move on to customer centricity. Well, we all know that customer understanding is the cornerstone, really, for customer centricity. And a lot of brands talk about being customer-centric, but there's one talking about it and another being actually it. So I want to ask you guys, what does it take for a brand to be truly customer-centric? I'll start with you, Chris. Sorry. Or you want to have a breather first?
No, that's okay. And I touched on it a little bit before, I think. For us, our product development will come from what we learn from our customers, who are school children at 13 and adults at 75, 80. That's a very broad and different market, but we certainly can't dictate what they need. We have to listen to them and learn, but in a simple way. If we get reams and reams of data that comes back, we can't do anything with it. And to your point, we're going to try a lot of stuff. We're going to get a lot of stuff wrong, but at least will learn and it'll become iterative. But the customer's at the heart of that, not somebody's very loud opinion of, oh no, I know what works best here.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone wants to?
For me, it's not about customer centricity. It's about people centricity. Is customer centric is not a strategy, it's a mindset. And a lot of company run the strategy of being customer centric. Sorry, it's not a strategy. And you can spot that immediately. When you have a sales pitch, when we speak with a company, if it is a strategy or a mindset, you can spot it. And immediately you know they're trying to sell me something that is not true. By saying so, it means customer centric as a mission, as a mindset, is really difficult to achieve. Must be brought to the company, educate your team, educate the board, and do everything around that. If your mindset is that, there are no silos, customer service, operation, marketing, you realize that everything runs around the customer. Easy to speak about, not easy to make, to implement it. I know that. It's a never-ending implementing mindset. So why I say also people and not customer? Because the company is made from people. And even every company must be people-centric, starting from the employees, going to the customers. And then the customers appreciate what they do. And the employees got benefit from it. And the employees are more happy and provide more value to the customer. This is my circle of people-centric mindset.
Interesting. Thank you. So it has to come from almost like within the company so that you can actually, okay. Yes, Nicola?
What did you say? We turn to each other and say, yeah, we all agree. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think what I feel, and part of the reason that I do what I do now is because it is cultural. It is about whether businesses are not only interested and keen to do what their customers want, but actually organise themselves and strategize and deliver for what their customers want and what their customers demand from them, I suppose. And so it kind of comes back to the first question of, what does it take? Well, the reason that data, that understanding, that deep understanding is important is because you can't do stuff for your customers if you don't know what it is that you need to do. And that will come from lots of different places, not just sales, not just digital marketing, but actually speaking to those customers and actually observing what they do when they interact with your brand. But most importantly, and I think it touches on what you were saying, Nick, in that it's got to be cultural. It's got to be embedded within the business, because if the people that you're employing are really excited and keen to understand how your customers live their lives, what your customers do, how much your customers love you, the part that you play in their lives, then you can't really start to deliver for that. So I think customer centricity is about just loving people and what they do, even when they're the things that you think, well, that's really inconvenient because I didn't actually want to have to do that with my business. But so it's not just about kind of thinking, oh, well, maybe we'll make this offer available in store as well as online, or maybe we'll make it available on the app. It's actually about thinking, how do I make the lives of my people and my customers easier so that they choose me every time?
I'm guessing that none of my fellow panelists have ever run a customer services department. Customers are horrible. And they want everything and they prefer it if it was free. So being totally customer-centric is not a profitable strategy. And in fact, it was interesting in Louisa's presentation, the 6 examples, I'm pretty certain, with the exception of Amazon, none of them make any money. But on a more serious note, for me, there are two questions you've got to ask yourself in order to be customer centric. It's a term I hate. It's very cliched, but it is important. The first thing is, as most people have said, is what are you doing as a brand, as a business, with your products and services to enhance the lives of your customers? It may sound a bit trite, but there's a value exchange, yeah? They're paying you something, and you've got to be giving them value, whether it's a product that does something for them, whether it's happiness, whether it's fulfillment, whether it's simply feeding them and making them feel good. So you've got to be sure that your brand is delivering something of genuine value to people's lives, and preferably something that isn't exactly the same as somebody else is doing. That's the substance. The other thing, which I think is almost equally important, and particularly when looking at a digital audience, is think about the process. And it's how easy are you making it for people to access and extract that value. Yeah, you may have an incredible product, but if the process of buying it is difficult, if the process of selecting it, particularly, I mean, if anybody here has bought anything complicated recently, it's almost impossible to buy any product that is complicated. The easier you're making the process, yeah, and therefore enabling the customer to get the value of your product and service, the better. So think about the substance, think about the value you're adding, but also thinking about the way in which you're enabling your customers to access it and extract that value.
Thank you, David. So I'd like to pivot the conversation toward consumer shopping trends. Now that we're approaching the holiday season, and obviously everyone's thinking about how they can make sure that they acquire and retain customers. But before that, we want to understand and would like to get your thoughts on this, guys. Do you think there will be a big change in how consumers shop this coming holiday season and into the new year, in fact? And if so, what do you think are the biggest changes in how they purchase that brands and companies need to be ready for?
In a word, no, there'll be no great difference. It's just be tougher. I don't think there's any fundamental change in the way people are shopping. People all went online through COVID. They've gone a bit back to stores or other channels in the meantime. I think what I do see happening is there will be a squeeze on the middle or a squeeze on the ordinary. Yeah, value will do well. It always does in a recession. And premium, super premium will probably do well as well because people will still treat themselves. But if you're sitting in the middle and you're ordinary, you're really going to struggle. The other thing which may be a slight nuance to the way in which things will happen, it plays back to Louisa's point about being helpful. As I said, for me, the biggest problem we have is choice paralysis. Yeah, it's you're faced with thousands of retailers, tens of thousands of products. If I searched for 52-inch TV recently, or there is about 5 billion records on Amazon. And if you try and narrow it down to 52-inch TV reviews, there's about 500 million. It doesn't really help that much. So I think helpfulness, helping customers make the right choices, whatever business you're in, if you're able to genuinely help your customers and give them the impression that you're helping them, I think they will appreciate that more in the environment that we're already in, but ain't going to get any easier for the next 12 to 18 months.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's a lot of media overhype, but you think London, for example, is dead. Well, anyone who's walked through Soho or the West End, I mean, it's just not true. Things will come off and get a little bit tougher, as they have before and they will again. And the companies that come through that are those that, as you say, provide value at the other end. For us, we're a B2B business. So similar challenges, discretionary spend down. We're a wellness business, so we hope that it's particularly relevant, but it's no different. it's no different. Companies are still spending money. They're just choosier about it. So it has to be something that makes theirs or their staff's life better. So a lot of the fluff gets cleared away. So, you just got to be even better at what you do.
Yep. Any more to add to that?
Yeah, I think empathy for me is the key word. I mean, that's probably helpfulness in another guise, but stay in your lane, do what you do well, and show empathy. And I think people will still buy, but cut the noise. You know, there's way too much noise. Everyone's doing the same thing, guys. So you've just got to do what you do really well and demonstrate real understanding, real empathy with what your customers need. And sometimes that's just delivery, fulfillment, things like that. It's not always about price. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I'd like to ask any of you if and what are your opinion on the customer behavior for the end of this year and next year, because I don't have an answer. I'd like to have one, but I don't. Also, it depends a lot from the country we are speaking about, because I can tell you the UK or European or Italian or the US country, they have and they will have a lot of different customer behavior or customer traits. Also, reconnecting to what David and also Luisa were saying, I prefer to say that we should care about our customer and not help the customers. It's slightly different, but for me, that tiny difference makes a lot more. So I prefer to care about our customers. And what else? It's tough. And I think probably, again, like David was saying, and I agree, if you look at the Maslow pyramid, we can see top level, people will still buying, but then they don't care. They will make choices, harder choices probably. And what we can do and we have the responsibilities as business, is to help them, is to care about them, see how can we support them properly during this. But I don't have an answer about the customer behavior now. It's really tricky.
Yeah, we could open we could ask, other people's opinions as well from the audience a bit later on. But interesting on what you touched about care versus help. Could you elaborate more on, maybe give us an example of care and not necessarily help all the time? Care for your customers.
From what I see, help is just one action. Someone has a need, I help this person, job done,
right.
And that's it. Caring is not only intervene and help in that case, but also have a follow-up and build a journey with this person. This is the difference for me from helping and caring.
Right. Makes sense.
I think if I can add to that, I think one of the things that in retail is almost entirely forgotten about and very, very little talked about is after sales. Yeah.
Right.
Retailers traditionally, you walk into a shop, you walk out with something, and that's it.
Yeah.
Online, you might get somebody saying thank you for your order, but really the retailer's only really interested in trying to sell you something else.
Yeah.
They're not actually, most retailers are not that bothered about whether you enjoyed the product, whether you got something out of it, and really anything to do with the after sales. And I do think it's an area that's massively neglected by almost every retailer, is genuine care.
Yeah.
Did you get what you wanted out of this product? They'll ask for a review, but that's only so they can have a few stars on the product page. No, retailers, once they've sold you something, they're just not that bothered. Mm-hmm. And I think for customer retention, the more care you can show after the event, the stronger your bond will be with that customer.
Right. Okay, thank you. So in addition to customer acquisition, many brands will also be doubling down their efforts on customer retention. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on the importance of customer loyalty programs. Do brands need to have customer loyalty programs? Is it essential?
No.
Interesting.
So
Pass the mic.
no, now I explain why. My background is not retail. I work in a lot of industries. I never worked in finance, but I worked for services, manufacturing, food industry, hospitality, across almost all over the world. And loyalty programs are a short-term solution, probably not even a solution, short-term thing. Loyalty programs were invented probably in the 19th century by retailers because the competition was growing, and so they had to retain their customers. So the company was paying the customers to stay loyal. This is the first scenario. Then we have a second scenario, when almost, I think, all of us, or a lot of us, have a lot of Apple iPhones. And you bought it one after another. And I never heard about Apple running a loyalty program, but we are loyal. This is a second stage where the company is not paying anyone to stay loyal. And then we have the third, and from my opinion, best one, Amazon, where we pay to stay loyal. That is completely different.
Yeah.
And I never imagined when I started doing marketing in the 90s that someone paid a company to stay loyal. Completely mind-blowing. So what is the loyalty program? I call it just branding. The value perceived from your brand, that is a loyal. You want your customer to stay loyal? Work on that. Share the value, leverage the value, and be sure that your customers, and again with the customer insights, your customer perceive the value of your brand. For me, this is the key. This is why, for me, loyalty program is not just a program. Again, it's a mission. Build your brand, make it valuable. People will stay with you. That is the natural outcome.
You?
Go for it.
We started Revoola because in the tech business, particularly in the fitness space, retention levels are appalling. Companies worth billions and celebrated as industry leaders have 3%, 4% retention levels. A loyalty card isn't going to fix that, right? It might be, a loyalty program might be one of 10 or a dozen tools that you have to retention's complex. So for us, yes, but really not the most interesting thing in terms of retention. It's our product starting off to be better. It's that product then iteratively improving for what customers want. It's all the other tricks you might use. It's communication, both digital and physical, Louise was talking about earlier. It's a whole bunch of things, but it's incredible to me that really big companies celebrated a year ago, no accident, they're failing now. We're just happy as Larry with a 2, 3, 4% retention rate, and a loyalty card won't fix that.
Yep, I agree. I mean, I'm somebody who, at my time at Boots, I worked on Boots Advantage Card, and at Holland and Barrett, I introduced a loyalty program. But the reason for that loyalty program was because we had no other way of getting any data from our retail estate. So I think in answer to your question, do we need them? No, not necessarily. It kind of depends on the business and the reason for putting it in place. If you've got no other method of gathering data, then they can actually provide you with a kind of a way to fill that hole. But I think we've come such a long way in terms of being able to pick up that same insight and data that we would have got from those 10, 20, 30 years ago. So I suppose what I see now is a bit what you were saying in terms of it just being one part of you being able to use that to inform your loyalty or retention strategy. It's not just about keeping customers shopping with you, but it's about giving them that experience that makes them want to come back time and time again. And that's across the whole business. That's not just one department, one group of people who used to send emails and now have expanded out into CRM and loyalty. It's about this, this kind of DNA that runs through the business that says we're here to solve for them. So they can still provide an insight in areas that you might not have depending on what your business is. But would I back 10 years on putting all of that money into producing some plastic cards and giving out points and coupons every quarter? No, I wouldn't. But as a result, I think you need to then focus on, well, where are you going to get that insight from? Because for marketers to be able to do stuff, they need people to target, they need technology to be able to send it out and make it happen, and they need that instinct and insight that comes from the business. So you've got to kind of consider it and consider what it does for your business, but not necessarily invest in the operations and the cost involved in running it.
Thank you. You don't have to. All right. Okay. Well, I have got just one last question here. So if you could give businesses just one piece of advice on customer retention, something that they can implement immediately, what would it be?
Yeah, tell me, please.
I think we all said earlier that we can't wait for this answer. You got any suggestions? Oh gosh, what I would say is this isn't I don't know, silver bullet or a single solution result. You know, you need to start doing some stuff, and I hesitate to say just get on with it, because of course you need to get on with the right stuff, but at the same time not taking action, not doing things because you're just not sure that it's the right thing, can equally be, you know, it can hold you back. So start with what you've got. You didn't get bad overnight, so start with what you've got and just evolve and do something better every day that you didn't do the day before, I suppose, is, you know, I hope that's not too cliche, but you know what I mean? It's just kind of getting stuck in and getting some things changed, and making that difference.
You asked us to prepare two things, you see, so I'm going to have to pick the best one of the two. So for me, it's obviously in any business, most of you are going to be pretty resource constrained. Yeah, you haven't got enough time to do the things you need to do, never mind the things you'd like to do. So you've obviously got to focus on the big things. You've got to focus on delivery, you've got to focus on product quality, focus on website transaction, for example. But one thing I would say that is surprisingly productive is the little things that make a difference to your customer and that get noticed. What you'll often find when you research things that become obsessions within your own organisation is when you put them in front of customers, customers couldn't give two hoots about it. But it's the little things sometimes that you do that become memorable. And a good example, I don't know if any of you shopped at Wiggle. They always used to put a little pack of Haribos in every package. Must have cost them 5 pence to do this. But it was something they became known for. If their underlying proposition had been shit, it wouldn't have made any difference. But because their underlying proposition was good, that little extra thing became memorable. At Heels, if you spent over a certain threshold, the chief exec would personally write a letter to you thanking you for your order. Again, it's not a big thing. It didn't take a whole lot of time, but it introduced a bit of human-to-human contact easily, yeah? And so if you've got one little idea, it's try and find some little things that cut through and make a difference and that get noticed by your customers.
I would say ditch the jargon. What do I mean by that? I think we said at the start, companies panic. They know nothing about consumer insight, customer retention. They go set something up. It becomes a silo. Everyone talks in a new language they don't understand. Aren't we good at this? And it's back to, well, nothing actually happens. This has to be relatable. It has to be deliverable. It has to be at the heart of your business. The only way you can do that is if everyone talks the same language, understands it, keep it simple. You hear so much jargon around this, and it's in companies, and people are going, well, I think this is important, but I've got no fucking clue what's going on, and nothing ever happens. Keep it simple and keep the jargon away.
We got two, so thank you.
It's the same thing.
I don't feel in the position to give any of you an advice. So I prefer to share a story. A story that by the time I experienced it, I was too young, but now I see the value of it. In Italy, we have a lot of street markets, and when I was really young, so we are speaking about 40 years ago, I used to do shopping with my grandmother. And, a lot of Italian people, they shout, and it's like that, okay? And in a street market, everybody shouts to start to grab the new client. So there's a lot of noise. However, my grandmother always went to a single shop, never changed. When we entered the shop, this person remembered my grandmother's name. My grandmother had 4 nephews, every nephew's name, asking, how are you? How are your nephew? How was the school? And this guy remembered I was doing swimming and competition, and he asked about my competition. My cousin was doing football competition, and asked about him. So now I understand why my grandmother never changed shop. And now I understand why I am obsessed with customer-centric, and I know the value of it. Now, take everything you want from it.
Beautiful story. Thank you. Do we have time for questions from the audience? We've got one. Oh, we've got quite a few here. So, yeah.
Do you have any question also for Abby?
You can save the questions for the panelists.
Do you want to go first?
Thanks, Nick, for putting me on the spot.
Hi, my name's Kathleen. I'm head of growth for a clean tech startup. I'm just really intrigued. I don't know if this is a fully formed question yet, but I used to work for big brands. Now I'm in the Series A startup land, which is all fun. But just the whole concept of like loyalty obviously used to be like a huge strategy. That sounds like everyone agrees that's kind of dead in the ditch. And I'm just thinking about people like me, and Greg mentioned earlier from What 3 Words, retention for me before used to be about repeat purchase, right? Now it's more about, for me, I'm like, how do I get EV drivers to plug in every night or every day to help balance the grid, right? So I'm looking at like repeat engagement. So I'm just thinking about the future. Do you think there's going to be another split of like retention strategies? Because one strand is like repeat purchase, and one strand is more about engagement. I'm just intrigued to get your thoughts about where that might go.
Who wants to?
So I don't think there'll be a split. I think what you're describing there is what I've seen in my career in CRM in the last sort of 10 to 15 years, which is that we did used to measure it. I used to be KPI'd on getting people to come back and shop. And that was it. Well, I was doomed to failure because, if you're working in certain industries, you can't get enough people back frequently enough and converting every time. And so I suppose what we're describing here is that retention strategy and loyalty strategy is multifaceted. It's not just about one metric, and you can't hold your team's account to that metric. It's about the whole business getting behind every single one of those things that indicates that the customers are choosing you every time. And so I don't see that it's a split. I see that actually it's like what's the opposite of a split? Like a forging.
Union.
Everybody coming together. And, I use this kind of excited body language because that's really what I would love to see. I would love to see that we stop recruiting people because they're experts in PPC or that they love social media, and we start recruiting people because they care about people and they want to work together and be experts and disciplined to really understand how those different channels can work together and make the experience better for customers and ultimately our businesses more profitable. Otherwise, we are doomed to what David said, which is these are great ideas, guys, but they don't make any money.
Cool. One last question. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm UX researcher and I do IT audits on a daily basis and how business can generate more growth in UK. And it's actually some topics I don't see people mention here, and I would like to know why it's so difficult, the implementation. So rewards, employers' ownership, and eco partnerships. So why businesses have so much is difficult for them, like make streams, make rewards, and make employers ownership. Yeah, thank you.
Guys, who wants to take on that? Not sure. Right, Nick has got some insights on that.
Why is difficult? Because a lot of companies, and I don't know if I answer your question, but I'll try. A lot of companies follow one thing: sales, retention, sales more, buy one more, have a bigger footfall in the shop. What they mean, from my point of view, is why I have more footfall. Think about Amazon. We had a lot of e-commerce before Amazon. What Amazon did well, they understand the customer, they spoke with them, and they create one of the best customer journey ever in the e-commerce space. Of course, they sold more, but that was a natural outcome of understanding the customer and provide their needs. Apple did the same. When they did the first iPhone, they didn't provide a need at the moment. They forecasted a need in the future, and then they gave the customer what they wanted in the next year. This is how they win. So from my point of view is, again, why are we doing that? How are we caring about our customers? What are the needs? How can we support them? And then, of course, because we care, they stay with us and they buy more. I don't know if I answered.
And again, I don't know whether this is the right answer, but UX for almost everybody is about conversion. Yeah, it accords with what Nick's saying. It's, can I get more people through the checkout? It's rarely about engagement. Yeah, it's rarely about what do you feel. Well, sorry, certainly in retail, it's rarely about engagement. It's maybe a bit about what do you feel about the brand, but fundamentally, the whole UX industry has been built around one thing, yeah, which is conversion, and it's quite a culture shift to say, well, actually, I'm going to sacrifice a bit of conversion to get a bit more engagement. Yeah, you'd be a very brave e-commerce director if you said, you know what, let's just put a totally different home. Let's have one picture on the homepage, and that's it. Yeah, when you know that if you've got pictures of each of the categories, people are going to click on them. Yeah, and so I think that this is an evolution that e-commerce is going to go through. Metrics, you talked about metrics. I think we will increasingly see the metrics change to being more emotional metrics rather than more statistical transactional metrics. But I don't think that'll happen especially quickly, but it will change over time.
Sorry, I was just gonna, well, no, just because for us, like what 3 words, it's not about a conversion at all. The economic relationship we have is with a corporate client, so the user is not paying. So for us, it's all about engagement is usage. Use the product, getting them to use it and coming back. So there are a number. That's a business model you see more and more. So as you say, yeah, engagement strategies around conversion, of course they're right for a retailer. As you see people trying to implement them in a business like ours, well, it doesn't work. So.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm afraid that's all the time we've got, but some of the panelists are actually staying after, so if you do have any burning questions later on, you can save them, and I'm pretty sure they'll be happy to answer them as well. So once again, thank you. I really found that helpful and interesting, and I'm sure the audience did too. And just please, a round of applause to our brilliant panelists. Thanks, guys.